Good day, everyone, for tuning in. Good morning, good afternoon, however you're watching this podcast or watching the live stream here at facebook.com/live reality games. We are covering Survivor Boston, specifically episode 8 of season 4, the Palamedes, however you'd like to say it. Joining here tonight, as usual, Nathan from Big Brother Columbus. Nathan, welcome back.
Good to be here. I'm excited.
How are your holidays going so far, sir?
They've been great. I was just watching some dolphins in the ocean this morning, and I'm here to talk about a great blind side, and which is my favorite thing about Survivor is when someone gets the rug pulled out from under them. So we'll break it down.
It really, I don't feel like was even the rug. It was like the whole basement floor just came out under this contestant.
The jaw was dropped, and that's just my favorite thing to see. It's no offense to the voted out person.
Well, another favorite thing for me to see is a returning face here for Survivor Boston. Tony joins us from season 3, Beacon Hill. Tony, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've been following the season as well. What do you think so far, like production-wise, cast-wise? I know you probably know a little bit more behind-the-scenes stuff, but how's it going so far?
This season so far is my favorite season of Survivor Boston. I think really the characters have really come full force. The editing is incredible. The story, there are so many compelling bits to this season that I'm really enjoying it so far.
Well, thanks for being here tonight. And joining us tonight is our eliminated player. Nathan already, spoiler alert, we have a huge blind side. And joining us here, if you have not tuned into the episode, don't watch this yet. Check back on the episodes and then check this out. So we are joined with Finn. Finn, welcome.
What's up, you guys? Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Finn, so surprised to have you here. You were a huge early target the entire game. Everyone felt like they were threatened, like you were such a strategic player, so stoic. And then so many rounds later, you made it past merge, and then you're here joining us tonight. So thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I predicted that you'd be going home almost every episode, so I was right in my prediction this episode. But how did you survive so long?
I think like a lot of people like to talk the talk because I think I do come off as very intimidating, but a lot of people, at first at least, like weren't willing to actually like go for it. You know what I mean? And I think I definitely I had some very good strategic alliances, especially at the start of the game, that I really think allowed me to just like coast through like a lot of the pre-merge.
Now, by coasting, you were in a pack. Like, you had to make decisions. You had to put those votes forward. So, essentially, you weren't really coasting, and you had a lot of heat at first, too. Especially even, like, the first round. Like,
I know. All this stuff where like, I had no idea people were even, like, thinking about me. I just was, like, suddenly, I kept hearing my name in these people's mouths, which was just, like, I don't know. It's something that I've sort of gotten used to. Like, I think just sort of like the way I look and the way I present myself, like people tend to assume the worst a lot of the time and just like kind of see like this sort of like just strong bitchy character. And that's kind of what I like when I came onto this show too. I was very much in it to be like, I want to play villain. Like I just want to have fun and like play my game and not sort of be worried about like what these other people think of me. So like even though I was sort of getting targeted at the beginning, like they didn't do anything about it, so that's on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the beginning of the game, like, how did you hear about Survivor Boston? Like, this is the 4th season. Have you heard about it casting before?
So, like, I did this when I was a sophomore at Emerson. In my freshman year, I knew some people who were competing on Tony's season 3, and so I sort of saw them, like, as they were going through it. And I'm also, like, not to brag, but I am friends with Isabella, the winner of season 2. And kind of after I saw, like, Isabella do it, I was like, okay, wait, now I want to do it. And she definitely, that sort of, like, set it going. I was like, wait, like, Isabella can do this, like, I can do this.
Now, I'm curious, like, you watched people in season 3 play this game. Did you see them like stressed out? Were they like super confused? Were they going through like an emotional breakdown? Like,
So I only like yes, it was like only once. It was only really saw like one thing happen, but I was just like sitting in someone's like room one time, and then like suddenly like two people come in, just having been like blindsided or something. I don't really know like what like where this was in the season, but they were like gagged. Like these two had definitely been like ganged up on somehow, or I don't know. It was like something with like Joe Scar like got like fully like clocked at one point. But and I just saw that and I was like, oh, like they're actually like having fun, and like it was like I was like, this is cool. Like I wanna do this. And also I am a very competitive person, and like there's not that much to do at Emerson. There's that not like this level of competitive, which isn't even that competitive to begin with. But like I was like, I want to do this and I want to win.
Now, you mentioned that on the show that you had watched all of Survivor Boston before. Did you also watch Survivor, and did you do
No.
anything else to prepare for
The answer to that question is no. I didn't even really start watching Survivor Boston until after I was cast in the show. I think I maybe lied my initial interview, because I also know I said in that interview that I watched Big Brother and I've seen like maybe a season. I'm just more like a general reality TV fan. Like I just love, honestly, my favorite kind of like Survivor style show. I don't know if any of you guys were into the show Redneck Island. It's basically Survivor,
Yes.
but with like, oh my god, I love that show. And I was like,
until later seasons they became like the challenge, but
did it?
first 2 or 3 was like Survivor.
That was like those first couple seasons of it when it was like Survivor. I was like, this is really cool. And I don't know, I've sort of been like around like Survivor adjacent people for a while, so it's definitely like was something where I'm like, you know, I don't really know what I'm doing. I know I can do well at this, and then I realized I had like a lot more to learn. But I mean, and then I learned pretty quickly. I like to think.
yeah, I don't know. I think you did really well. You had a really good game going for you. You found an alliance. You swapped at one point, which really brought you the strategic like mastermind in my mind. Unfortunately, it wasn't the recovery afterwards that you were able to like backpedal enough. So
right, exactly. Like even until the very end, I was like, I'm doing great. Like until like literally until I like even at that tribal, I was like, this is perfect. Like I'm doing an amazing job and I'm gonna win. Which honestly was better. Although I will say I'm kind of mad that nobody told me. Because I would have caused a scene at that tribal, and I kind of felt like I was robbed of that chance.
I feel like I was left out. Like we were all watching at home, and we were like, "Okay, where's Finn's big blow up? Like he's gonna call people out." You just kind of like saunter out, and that was it.
Yeah, I was just because I literally had no idea what was coming. Like people had like a very good. They did a good job of pulling that off because they just like I got like the wool, the rug, the floor, the basement pulled out from like under me.
Quick tune in from our audience at home. Phoebe, thanks for joining in. Shout out to Tony. And then Jacob tuning in for Finn and Tony. Hey. And then Juju as well. Tony fans. Tony fans all around. Like
Sorry, Finn.
Too, honestly, I was excited when I found out Tony was gonna be here too. So
I miss Finn.
I was excited too. I did watch Beacon Hill, so I'm caught up with that. So thank you, Tony.
Of course.
So Finn, starting, I guess, like you walk in, you know a few people. You mentioned you do know a few people. How comfortable do you feel in this group of like 20 people that you're going to play this crazy game with?
I was definitely nervous coming in like that first day. Like I was scared because like I did know a couple people, but I sort of like the people I knew sort of to me felt like they were closer with other people at that point. Like so I knew like Maddie and I knew Zach, but like I knew that they were both closer with Austin. So like all this stuff, so I was like, I feel like I'm not in like a terrible spot right now. But also like the few people going into this that I know, like I wasn't really like I don't know, I didn't really have like the best footing to start out with. I also like I was at that time like I was really close with Jackie too. We just had like a class together, so I was like, perfect. Like me and Jackie are gonna slay this. And then I ended up like not being on her tribe, which I was like definitely disappointed about because like she was one of the few people that I was like friends with, sort of like outside of the game at that point.
There was a lot of focus about your relationship with Max early in the game. What was
Oh my God.
that like?
Okay, well, so it's kind of explained on the show, but Max's roommate freshman year is like my best friend, like my like ride or die. He does music. My friend Andrew, I'm just gonna plug in really quickly. Listen to his album Bonnie Parker, or his that's his like artist name. But search Bonnie Parker on Spotify because his music slaps. Basically, like I know Max, sort of like no like I'm like going into this, I knew how Max was gonna be, which is kind of like silly and sort of like all over the place because that's very much who Max is. So going into it, I was like, I don't know if I trust him that much, but I know I can at least get him on my side. So that was like how I sort of got like started things, and then very quickly was like, I don't actually want to like, I don't want to like tie myself to this shit. You know what I mean? Which is kind of like a lot.
Do you feel like that was a detriment at the end? Like I recapped a little bit of the episodes. I went like back and forth for my notes, and there was literally a pros and cons list of Carly and Max. Maybe you should have went Max.
I honestly, I think I remember like when we were making that pros and cons list, I wanted to get Max out because at that point, like was sort of kind of starting to realize that I was not being completely honest with him. And so I was like, okay, well, he needs to go. And as at that point in the game, that was my strategy. Was just like once someone sort of like was on to me in a sense, or just like I don't know, like wasn't really like serving my purposes. I kind of was like, I kind of felt like I needed to like be a little more like aggressive because like I didn't want Max telling everyone that I was me, even though I was.
This is a thing that was coming up in this episode a fair amount with the conversation between Carly and Swathe, I want to say. But I think throughout the season, there's been a lot of conversations where people are just blatantly lying to each other.
They're
And
all theater
like
students. That's what I feel.
like they
Yeah, I don't know
both
who
know,
would
like
do
the
that.
person knows it, and so it's kind of like, why are you doing entire conversations where you're lying to a person and they can fact check it later? So like was that like what was going on there?
It was like tough. I think like at that point, like after the Maddie vote, like because it was so sort of like fractured and it didn't really turn out the way that anyone had sort of initially like thought it was gonna go. Like that was the point. I just was like the game changed and everyone just kind of stopped trusting everybody altogether for a little while, and that definitely I think was like a bad because like I was being honest to Carly, but she thought I was lying to her, and then like I was lying to other people, which they clocked too. So I don't know. It was definitely interesting. I wish I did not lie to Zach because like as I was doing it, I was like, I can either tell him the truth or I can just like lie. And at the time, I was like, I'm just gonna lie. I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna like see how this goes. I was like scared he was gonna get me out. Like if I told him that I voted out Maddie. And then like as I was talking to him and like completely lying to his face, I was like, this is not going well. Like I was like, this just didn't feel right. And then and it ended up, my gut instinct was right, that I was like, I fucked up right there. Okay.
Now, did you ever come clean to anybody about the Maddie vote? Like, this is a huge conversation we still have to go over. Like, this vote is going to go down in like history. It was
like besides Carly and kind of Anissa, who like knew how I voted while I was still in the game. No, like I didn't tell anyone. But I will say, like the second I got voted out, I like texted Maddie being like, "I'm so sorry." Like this, I like immediately like the second I sort of got out, I like started, like coming, like making amends for like the stuff I pulled.
And it wasn't anything to be ashamed of. Like, you had a good game plan. Like, at that point at Merge, like, you can, like, flip-flop a little bit if you're careful. And you really tried to pull that, like, cast card to be like, oh, I'm going to switch things up, going to pull on and then switch back to this side.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, they caught wind of you.
Yeah, do you think things would have been different if you had come clean to anybody?
Yeah. I honestly think so because, like, when I went home, I was honestly really shocked that like my former like alliance members like Swetha and Zach decided to vote me out because like even as I was walking out of there, I was like, oh, like it's gonna get so much harder for them, I guess, just because like they're throwing away one of their like I don't know, like they're one of, I mean, they didn't really know I was that loyal because I did just flip on them, but like I was like they're kind of silly for this because like I would have voted with them a lot of the way, and now they're kind of at a disadvantage. So I was definitely like thinking that like even if they sort of did find out, like they would kind of need to at least keep me along for a little, and I could regain my footing, but apparently not.
Yeah. As Phoebe says, Phoebe is one of the producers for season 4, especially on this. It's really a different game when you have to go to school with everyone still afterwards. As we talked about, like Emerson is one of the smaller colleges for the Survivor group here. And it's really different compared to, say, like Survivor Ohio, Survivor Michigan, even. Emerson is one of the smaller ones, and you do have to go to class the day after, be like, hey, Maddie, about
that week between when I voted Maddie out and then when I got voted out, I like saw her like in the hall, and she just like couldn't even like look at me, and I was like, I understand. And it was like I was like that was the moment where I knew I was like, this was great. I was like, I don't know if I should have done this, because then all those like real life consequences started. Me and Maddie are cool now, so everything's filled with that. Shout out to Maddie. I don't know.
So.
Yeah.
Right.
Tony, how do you face people after you vote them out?
Luckily, I didn't really have much of an opportunity to vote too many people out in Survivor Beacon Hill, but just like I can attest to just how the smallness of Emerson College really kind of manages to fuse its way into the game and strategy. Like most of my storyline in season 3 is about this feud I had with Molly, however much of a one-sided feud it may have been on her part. Like a lot of the social politics of where you stand at Emerson College, not even that, but like who you know. We even saw this season with like Austin,
right?
And it's just such a small school where most people know pretty much everyone, where you have to juggle the social politics of that on top of the strategy.
I will also say one of the other disadvantages of it being so small is that when you're like meeting with people, you always have to keep like one eye like peeled open behind your back, because like there have been so many times where like I know people who have been like overheard like talking strategy or like seen with someone that like maybe they shouldn't have been, and it's like cost them the game. So it's like there's an extra level of paranoia because like you're sneaking around like on top of each other basically.
Carly caught your original alliance coming out of your meeting this episode.
I know. Like
yeah. Like it was mentioned that Swatha saw Carly. Did you see Carly in this interaction as well, and just were kind of trying to avoid it?
That's a good question. I don't remember. Is what I'll say. I honestly cannot tell you.
But where were you with Carly and all of this? Because it seemed like during the swap tribe, you had kind of become Carly's number one and vice versa.
That's what I thought too. I like as I was going into the merge, I like thought I was on much better terms with Carly, and I thought I did my best to just like, you know, like I was like, honestly, out of everyone that I was working with, I was kind of the most honest to Carly, and I sort of just assumed that she felt the same way. And so it was kind of a surprise, like watching it back, like realizing like, oh, she actually didn't really trust me as much as like I put trust into her. Which like, you know, which I respect, because like I definitely allowed myself to get like played a little bit, because I definitely thought we had like similar goals and could like go farther together.
Just to clarify, Carly said she did. So
she did work.
Oh, until the Maddie vote, when she thought you betrayed her. So
yeah, which is honestly too bad, because like I was like, I told her the truth. I was like, yes, I voted for Maddie, and then I think just like because the numbers were so confusing on like who voted where, like it became very easy to just like assume that I flipped, based on like all my past actions in the game.
And two, like the votes were so like at the start of this episode, everybody was shocked about how that last vote went.
Yeah.
It was so surprising about how many people had so much different information. Big H thought one thing, Anissa thought one thing, Carly thought one thing, and everybody was so sure about how the votes went down. Nobody was correct, even for the people who flipped. Didn't know about the people who also flipped at the second. It was.
I think Anna had it pegged.
Anna was correct about it.
She was the only one too.
But they didn't believe her.
Shout out to Anna for being one of the few people who really like saw right through what I was doing.
Well, I do think the Anissa vote, it seemed like that had a big impact on you going out, because it kind of like that was just one more question mark that was left unanswered. And she wasn't coming clean, so even her own, like your side, her side, didn't know about it, and so that meant they didn't trust you either.
Yeah, and I realized like while I was playing, like I think you guys don't really understand like how secret Anissa and Big H kept their alliance. Like none of us had any idea they were working together. So like there's like footage of me like talking about how Anissa is a threat directly to Big H, which that like obviously I wouldn't have done it had I known like at all that they were working together. But like it's stuff like that I think like just those little things add up.
Yeah, just in general, from watching these college survivors, I think the Anissa and Big H alliance is probably one of the best secret alliances that I've ever seen. I don't think anybody's onto them at this point, and it seems like they're doing enough work to disengage from them, like voting each other out of challenges, so on and so forth, and talking kind of bad about them to other people. So I'm really excited to see how this gets put up into other episodes. Let's take it back, Finn, a little bit earlier. I don't know. We talked about like the initial tribes and whatnot. What was your thoughts about the initial tribe you were first put on? You weren't too excited. You felt some of the bigger players were on the other side, of course. So.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I was like, when I sort of saw like how everything got like set up, I was definitely sort of like wishing I was on the other team, just because like in terms of like initial alliances, like I barely knew anybody on my original tribe that I was put on, like that first Katai tribe. I was like, I don't really know these people. Like but I knew the other people. So I was like, shoot, like I know they're all gonna start like working together, and like I don't want to be like left out of that. So honestly, like I was really happy when like I got traded, I guess is what. And I think it worked out like really well for me. Like I was much more like glad to be on that team, just because I think also especially on Katai, like a lot of people came in like right away with the idea that I was a threat, like mainly like Jess, like people like, and Jess and Anthony both, I think, kind of had it out for me. So I was kind of glad to just sort of be like, at least sort of like remove myself from like that kind of like group of people for like the time being. I was like, hopefully they'll be like get voted out, so I don't have to like work like convince these people that I'm not a threat when I am, but like like I didn't want to like come off like that.
Why do you think you had that threat presence about you?
A lot of it is I have a very hooded eyebrow. I have a hooded brow. And like I am a part of the resting bitch face community. So a lot of the time, like I will like just like if people see me in the hall, like just in sort of like what people know of me, like from Emerson, like if you don't really know me, like you might just see someone who's looking kind of like angry and sort of like above it or something. And I think I'm like, I'm proud to give out those vibes because it makes people like stay away from me, which is like good, like leave me alone. But like at the same time, I was like, I know I'm gonna have to sort of like put in the work to like convince people otherwise. Because that's just like, I don't know, it's just a common theme of like people just like automatically either think I hate them or like or just I don't know, like I think I just because I get nervous I go quiet, and then like because I'm quiet people are like, oh, he's scheming. And most of the time I'm not, but like sometimes I am. So I'm an enigma. Like I think I just people can't figure me out easily. I like to think so. That's like it makes it harder, I think, for people to get like an accurate read.
Well, one of the things to get a read on is your first choice of doing the Temple of Risk, which is a huge thing. You volunteer to put yourself in danger for the very first challenge without even knowing what the reward is, what the disadvantage is. What was your thought process of volunteering to be one of the first people for
I,
Temple of Risk?
I think at the time I was like, oh, I need to just like I need to play the game, and like that was I knew early on I was like I feel like it's gonna be something where at least if I don't win, hopefully I won't lose. So I just was like I'm gonna try it just because like I'd rather at least like start this momentum going now rather than just like if not now when, I guess. But then like once I did badly in it, I was like, oh, I'm never doing these again.
Yeah,
Um,
and you didn't do them again after that.
Right, and you'll see because I like didn't do well at that like throwing challenge, and I didn't like the way that felt because I was like I don't want to be like this first person with a disadvantage. So I just was like the other ones I was like, well, I don't need to do this, especially because I had like a good alliance I was working with. I was like, I don't need these like other like risks to take and put me in like a somehow like a worse spot.
Well, have these Temple of Risks actually paid off for anybody? I
I
mean,
think
because thinking about what,
Good
because
question.
Anise is kind of done like the way I think she's played hers really well.
but she
But
hasn't
like,
even gotten the power from it.
True.
right,
Like
that is
her
true.
idol's not even active, so she didn't actually get
Although
anything
I
yet.
will remind you guys, like the lie she was telling us about, like her idol being like that legacy, like the lie she told us about her idol. Everybody was, I mean, at least for me, like I didn't know Survivor well enough to be like, oh, that kind of sounds like something that they wouldn't do. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, like if that's what she's telling me, like great. So I think at the time, like even though she didn't even like have an advantage, like she still made it work for her.
My thing with the legacy advantage lie is like she was describing she said she had a legacy advantage and then was describing something that wasn't a legacy advantage in like typical survivor terms, and anyone could have looked out up like what's the legacy advantage and like compared notes and been like hold
Yeah,
up.
see, that's why
Mhm.
I'm like Zach was so smart on this because like he really feels like the only person that kind of like understands what she's doing. And even at the time, we were all just like, I don't know, like why would she lie to us about this? Like, what would be the point? And obviously, like, I mean, she played me. Like, she definitely. I was like, honestly, like, especially in terms of Anissa, like I thought that Maddie vote was like my idea at first. I was like, oh, this is like, this will be like, I was like, I'm doing this crazy move. And then I come to find out, I'm just on Anissa's bigger plan, um, which was like, you know what? I respect her for that. Cause like, I really was like, oh my God, like they're about to show like all this stuff of me like setting this up. And then like, it's kind of, I'm just sort of there as like a footnote.
Is that one of the more surprising things that you found out after watching this season?
Yeah, probably. Like that sort of, I think like sort of just figuring out like where I was sort of kept in the dark about things, especially around like who sort of figured out that I was lying and who like what people just were assuming my game was, I think was the most surprising because like I didn't really feel at the time like people sort of considered me that big of a threat, but like it's just clearly just something they weren't like saying directly to me.
That's so surprising because everyone had that like same mentality. Like even watching at home too, we were like, "Finn is out for blood." That was a quote straight from Nathan.
Yep.
Last week's episode that we did. So
Yeah, I wanted to cause some. I wanted to have fun, and I wanted to like spice. I wanted to spice things up because like I sort of saw like the way that our alliance was going. Like I definitely would have made it a lot farther. I think had I not flipped on everyone. But I just was like, I don't know. I'm already feeling a little bored. Like I don't want to just like pick them off one by one. Like
Yeah, I don't know that your flip was bad. I think maybe the timing, maybe more the follow up of it because it seemed like because there was so much confusion about the vote and you were the biggest question mark out of everybody voting, that kind of left you vulnerable. Um,
Definitely. Definitely. And it's also just, I think, like, because just I think I had like a pretty big target on my back that week. And I think like sort of everyone's uncertainty about where I stood made that even bigger. And also to point out just how much I was so confident that I was like not going home. I was like, perfect. Like, this is just another tribal.
I feel like if you had targeted Anissa instead of Hallie, there may have been more weight
Yeah.
behind your
And honestly, like,
choice.
I like, I feel like I should have because, like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff I could have done, but I think ultimately, like, I'm like when I came into this, I just was like my goal was just to get to merge. That's like sort of like was my goal throughout the whole thing. And so then once I got there, I kind of just was like, all right, now let me go crazy. And then kind of like sort of didn't really see the bigger picture of like staying to the end. But just because I was like, oh, I'm out merge, like that was sort of like the big milestone that I like wanted to get for myself.
Now, doing like the recap and looking at the notes from earlier, I was really surprised to see you fluctuate between, I don't know, maybe like the Max and Marley and Marlin alliance between like the Big Five alliance that you were in. I felt like you could have maybe swayed to the Max and Carly train, and this game would have been completely different.
Yeah, that's true. It definitely would have been. Like, I think I was at a place where like I could have really gone either way, but I just was more at the time, like especially at the beginning, I was so much more comfortable like working with Zach and Maddie and Swetha that I was just like, well, I would much rather just follow them instead of like setting myself up to be like sort of on like the other side of them.
Jake Cup also like confirms that is his squad, I guess. So we'll see how far your squad gets. Marley, Marlon. Yep, they're all kind of the same. Like, yeah, it's like the couple's name that we talked about a few weeks ago. So
a funny scene happened this episode. It was like the first one where you're having a conversation post tribal and Maddie's just standing there.
Yep.
And it's just like watching the fallout as everyone tries to figure out what happened. Does that happen normally? Just like does the person who's voted out just like linger around, or do they get ushered away sooner?
It kind of depends. Like for the most part, I think like we're normally not supposed to like talk with them after they get eliminated. But it's also like again because like they're still there. Like we had to like I don't know. It sometimes just works out where like they'll just be there, or if they're like waiting on someone else too. Like that's just kind of how it works. But it definitely like that was a very uncomfortable conversation for me because I was still like. So I was still like kind of scared about what I had just done. So I was like that whole conversation they filmed of like with Maddie was there. I'm like internally like freaking out because I was like I can't let anybody know like what happened.
Yeah, and you had chosen to do a little bit of an acting job at that tribal council.
Yeah.
Were you planning on doing a big face at that point?
Honestly, I like wasn't sure what I was gonna do like once it happened, and then sort of like I just at the moment I was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna lie. Like, I'm like I like to do improv, so I like to think that I'm not like a terrible liar a lot of the time. So it was so much easier in that moment to just be like, I'm gonna lie about this and sort of like not tell everyone what's going on instead of like admitting in front of Maddie like everything that I had was like just that I just did. Because again, I thought that I was sort of like in control of things. So I was like, I can't just like tell everybody what I did because then they'll send me home. And then they sent me home.
Yeah, and it sounds like the vote was a huge shock to production too. They didn't even realize like Maddie was still there when everyone was talking about it.
It was like, and honestly, like it was so hard to choose. Even like up until then, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. And then Hallie had that huge long like moment where she talks about how we should all send her home. And then I was like, oh, this is so annoying. Like I was like, Hallie, why don't you say this until next week? Because like then you could have just gotten Maddie out like I wanted, and then easily just have been like, let's get Hallie. But like just because then, even though I was like, I want to get Maddie out, like Hallie saying all that about how she's like send me home made me want to send her home. So then I was like even more conflicted. But it ended up being like I just assumed that like everyone else was on the sort of same level of annoyance, that they were like, we're gonna get her out next week for saying this.
Yeah, but the one thing that put you over, thank you, Anissa, for putting this straight, was the white jacket, right?
Yeah, it was I mean, the white jacket, like I'm going in, I was like, okay, we're voting for Maddie. And then Hallie went off and I was like, oh, great, like now I think I might vote for Hallie. But ultimately, I was like, no, like I can't. I told all these people I was going to vote for Maddie. I don't want to just like go back on it now. But yeah, that white jacket, I was like, I was like the whole time I was like walking to like the studio where we did it. I was like, white jacket, white jacket, white jacket.
Tony, did anything come up in your season like that? Hey, I'm gonna wear this ball cap, so vote for Brian here, or anything like that?
That was pure theater. I was shocked, like
from the journalism major, right? So
literally, like perhaps the least theatrical person on the cat. I was shocked by that.
Yeah, like Anissa was someone who we were all like, oh, she's a real threat in these challenges, but we were like, she's not like the social player. And so to sort of reveal that she's like behind the scenes and sort of like manipulating a lot of like the votes and what's been happening so far, I'm like, damn, like she's got full package. You know what I mean? Like the theater, the energy, it's all there.
I think the only thing clothing wise that happened in Survivor Boston Beacon Hill was I voted out Shelly wearing her jacket. Like that's about it. And then a real Natalie Cole moment.
In our live game experience, we had one player, Susan. She had a pair of sunglasses. So sunglasses down meant one way, sunglasses up meant another way.
Ooh,
that's
something
good
to watch out for.
That's cool. I with that.
Nathan, anything Big Brother wise?
Yeah, I mean, I played in Big Brother Victory House. There was one time where someone borrowed a shirt of mine, and then he gave it back around I was on the block, and I was like, "Oh, so you're voting against me? That's not good."
Like, you can have this back.
And I was like, "Why are you handing this back to me? Unless I'm about to leave."
Aww.
Yeah.
Did you leave then? Were you eliminated then?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's a bad sign.
Yeah.
The other thing about so you're complaining about Hallie at Tribal. This episode, her food of choice was a salad.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen her with chips, we've seen her with a salad. I think we may have seen her with cookies. I can't remember. Finn, do you have a favorite Tribal Council food to munch on?
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say like I just like whenever she would do it, it just would be like you just hear like all these like crunching noises while like everyone else was just being like quiet. Personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of her eating in Tribal. That's just me. But also like I respect. Again, as a move of theater, I think it's wonderful. But having to like be there and sort of listening to her like chew her food was not my like favorite way to spend it.
Well, it's like we see all these faces of people paying attention to what others are saying and like thinking really hard and looking at everyone trying to read their faces, and then she's just like not caring, eating her salad.
Yeah. And that's kind of just like how like Hallie is kind of like a quirky character, so like you know like it wasn't like anyone was like I can't believe she's doing this, because like, yeah, obviously she would like just decide to eat. It was sort of one of those things where like everyone was like, really, you're gonna like eat right now, but also at the same time we're like, well, yeah, like if you're gonna eat, like you better eat, you know what I mean?
And she did.
And
she ate.
And really from like an actor or an actress standpoint too, it was like the camera was kind of focused on her the entire time. Like even if she's on the right side or the left side, like she was in there just like eating the lettuce. We were like intrigued watching her eat it. So
it was performance art.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm really excited to see Hallie and Jackie finally talk in this episode too. Super excited. I felt like they were behind the scenes a little bit too much, maybe in the last few episodes. So I'm excited to see Jackie kind of step up her game and, like she said, be on the offensive. Especially after Austin left, she's kind of got a little bit more swing behind her. So
I'm excited to see what Jackie does. As a viewer, I'm definitely like rooting for her, and I'm sort of like now further on. I know like sort of what happens, but I'm also like I also really don't know like a lot of sort of like what happens from this point on. So like I'm excited to watch, sort of like take the rest of it and kind of like appreciate it as a viewer instead of just being like sort of like counting down like the hours until like I go home.
Yeah, forgive me for I don't remember the tribe name super well, but we have original tribe of Anissa, Big H, Jackie, and Hallie, and was there any consideration about how to approach those four? I mean, they're in a pretty small minority going into the merge, and was that a topic of conversation at all?
I think it was like it was sort of one of those things where like when I would meet with like the Fatia alliance that I was in, we would sort of we would sort of talk about like what we wanted to do, and then I had talked with Big H a couple of times, so I would sort of be like, oh, I'll get Big H, and then like Swetha or Maddie would be like, I've got Jackie. So it kind of like when I was with them, it was definitely a situation where like each of us would sort of like handle someone in a sense, but then like I think sort of like and my plan was to like keep sort of like building those relationships as the game went forward, but like it was one of those things where like not everyone was meeting with everyone just because like we sort of had like representatives kind of like figuring out sort of like what side everybody was on.
Now, was that kind of like the biggest thing we didn't see, like you and Big H talking, or kind of what was like the behind the scenes that we missed from you, Finn?
Okay, I have some behind the scenes, and Charlie, if you're listening, I'm actually a little mad about this. So listen up. On the episode where Max goes home, they have the big tribal, and then they don't show what I'm saying as I hold up Max's name, which it's fine. But I remember very distinctly, and I think Tony will appreciate this. I held it up. I held up his name, and I was like, "Buy Art Pop on iTunes." Again, some more Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga reference, and completely cut. I was so disappointed about that. I guess the only other big thing that like that wasn't seen was during Anthony's vote. I feel like I was able to sort of convince Carly to flip because Anthony had just told me that he was willing to vote out Carly, and Carly was still like, no, like Anthony's on my side, and I was like, Carly, he just sat me down and told me he wants to get you out, like we need to go for him. And I think that was one of like the biggest reasons we got Carly to like flip and sort of join us for the time being, because it was fully like Anthony was like getting ready to like double cross her again. So I was like, you need to be careful of this guy. Other than that, I'm trying to think. I think that's everything. Like that's all the behind the scenes. I don't want to give anything away, but there's something that I'm to see if it makes it to air.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm not sure if it will, and we'll see. And that's all I'm gonna say on that.
So going back to that swap tribe, I mean, you really take the reins at the Austin vote. You take the reins of your tribe and your alliance.
Yeah.
Was that just the time to do it? Did you feel like were you threatened by Austin in particular?
Yeah, I was definitely like from kind of like this was more off my initial impressions, but Austin is someone who I know is like a very like good social player and like a very like someone who people generally like. So I sort of knew that I was like, and just sort of from the fact I could feel like he wasn't really reaching out to me at all. We were kind of just like minding her own business. And I also knew that like Maddie and Swetha were like much closer with him than they were with me. So I was like, I honestly just was like, he's like a big threat to my game. And that was like the time. It was like, it kind of just felt like the perfect opportunity to just like get it done. From my perspective.
And it looks like production is tuning in here. So Charlie wants to say you were actually a huge part of the Anthony boot. So that conversation with Carly was pivotal in that. And of course, whenever Carly later on in whatever season, we'll definitely try to ask her too. If not, make sure to remind us in the comments, Finn. And then they are totally re-uploading the episode with that art pop line.
Acknowledging this because I was so excited. I was watching with my roommate and I was like, you guys, you have to wait until I say when I like hold up my thing, and then just like nothing. I was like, oh, like great.
I knew Charlie hated art pop. I knew it.
I love art pop. Great album. I was glad I guess the one other thing was like, oh, my final vote, those sunglasses, when I got eliminated, those like sunglasses, they were just like a random pair that I found on like the table, like as I came in to do it. And I was like, can I wear these? And so like, well, like I guess I'm wearing sunglasses now. And for like a while, like before this aired, I was like, oh my God, people are gonna think I was like crying or something. And that's why I had to like wear sunglasses. But no, again, for the theater of it, I just was like, I see it, I want it.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of that kind of like exit interview kind of thing, you took it kind of rough. You know, it was a complete blindside and everything. After that, did you recover? Did you have a moment to like think back on that time? And
yeah, like I think I definitely like I got over it pretty quickly, especially because like I knew I was playing a risky game, so I was like, well, like I'm not shocked that this happened. I think like if my memory serves me, literally like later that night, I'm like me and Zach were supposed to go to like a party together or something, and so like the second he walked in, we both like laughed about it, and like even though like he voted for me, I was like, I totally understand, like blah blah blah, like I legit like lied to his face. So it was one of those things where like kind of the second everything was over and that sort of like initial shock and like annoyance had worn off, I was like, well, like this is the game. So, and I had like a really good time playing it, so it was fun.
Are campus parties the main way of doing jury management in Survivor Boston?
It's not one of the main ways. I think a lot. There's like I don't know how much footage they're gonna show, but I know it's like kind of a popular thing to like record yourself for Survivor Boston, like in like the throng of like of an event like that. There's I don't think we'll ever make it to air, but there's like a really good clip of me and Jackie meeting up at a party one time to like talk strategy, and then I think it's like right as I go home too, something like that. But it's definitely helpful.
Traditionally, it's one of the worst things to do in a college survivor is to talk about your alliance at a party and enjoy that time. Like, Michigan is notorious for it. We have a lady, Maggie. Her little hyphen in the bottom is tequila expert, and that serves her right. Speaking of little hyphens, you had an interesting one. Finn, you chose yours to be multi-hyphenated? Hyphenated?
Yeah.
Where does that term come from?
It sort of like it comes from the fact that I do a lot of different things. I like to start off by saying like I'm a multi-hyphenate, and then like some of the hyphens include, and I'll just, you know what? I'll just list off my credits if any big name producers are watching this. But I do improv. I'm an actor. I write. I'm a writer. I direct. I've done costume design. I do like I produce things. I don't know. I dabble in drag. I do like a lot of. I have like a lot of sort of like creative interest. So I've sort of decided. I decided like pretty soon after this is wrapped that I was like, hey, this is what I'm gonna put as like my lower third. This was like because I'm a multi hyphenate. Like I can't just be contained by one description.
Yeah, Jacob was also curious about that too.
Is this like not a thing? I thought this was like maybe it's not.
You made it a thing, Finn. This is your thing. It's totally fine.
It's my thing. So
And then Phoebe wanted to chime in and said, "Yep, the footage,
yes,
whether it may be sober or not, is amazing, and probably doesn't make it to the cut because you wake up tomorrow and you're like, oh,
that
a conversation.
You know what? That's fair.
Yeah. Tony, was that pretty similar to you?
Yeah, I will say, like, you never know watching the show who at Tribal Council is not quite sober when you're watching it, because a lot of us are.
That's true. That's true. I think you'd be shocked to know some of like the way it sort of falls a lot of the time.
During my Tribal Council, where I went home in season 3, like literally before Tribal, I went to Roz's dorm, and what can I say here? I don't want to. We partook in substances, and I was like, what would you? Yeah, and I was like, you're not voting me out tonight, right? And she's like, why would I do this to you and then vote you out afterwards? Like, that would be so fucked up. And then
that was like,
Ooh.
It was so funny. Thank you, Roz.
I don't think I've never played a live game entirely sober, so I don't know.
Right? I mean,
that never happened in Big Brother Columbus, right? There was no drinking involved.
It was literally, we would do it on our walks to the diary room. We would take shots together. So yeah, the real trick is pretending you're drinking at all times, but not actually, so you can still stay sober enough to do competitions and keep your wits about you.
So I guess, Finn, that brings you to the next question here. Like, we're talking about all these other games too, like Big Brother Columbus. Would you ever be interested in playing something like that? Or doing something past the College Survivor atmosphere?
I've thought about it. I would like probably not, just because like it's honestly like a big time commitment, and it's one that like I was glad I sort of like did then, because I'm like, don't know if I have like the time or the energy to kind of like do it now. But like I would love to do like legit Big Brother one day, or like legit Survivor, because I think that would just be so fun.
Big Brother Columbus is just a weekend.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I don't know that much about it. I guess I would say then like I'll have to do some more research. But like who knows? I mean, that's the thing. Like I had a lot of fun on this, and definitely was something that like I would do again. But like, you know, I'm glad it sort of like is the way it is.
Yeah, Finn, I think you were a great personality and a great like character to be on the show. So I'm super excited to see you try maybe something different too. Just to be in something, and you talked about like doing research. So a great way to do research here is facebook.com/groups/LRG casting. They are casting for the 2021 calendar season. As long as everything goes better in this next new year, which knock on wood, I just did. Desk's made out of wood, so thanks, Tony. But Finn, you were super excited to see on screen to make those game moves and just be that personality that people were so afraid of. But at the same time, people were like, no, he's not that bad. But especially like in that first episode, Madison's like, yeah, he's scary, Max. I don't know what to do.
Like Madison had the right idea that first episode.
And it's so funny because Madison, if you were watching earlier, Madison was my first pick to win the entire thing. So.
I know. I saw your guys' pick. Interesting.
Yeah, sorry. Well,
No, it's funny. I don't have it uploaded in the screen right now. And somebody must have, because we stream for Survivor in New York. We do like sequester and all that stuff. So somebody cleaned out the files, so I can't bring that picture and show you how great we placed you, Finn.
Well, Finn, really, what this means is you surpassed all of our expectations, because we had you going early in our predictions. So you broke the last ceiling for us, and that's something to be really proud of.
And I'm proud of that. because I was like, I saw where you guys had placed, and I was like, you know what, I'm excited for them to see like how it actually plays out.
And I always say if I make a prediction where someone goes early, it's like prove me wrong, please. Like tell me I'm wrong. Show me that you're a better player than I can perceive from your 1 minute interview. So.
Right, exactly. Like if I was watching it based off that like 1 minute, I don't think I would have placed myself very high either. Like that was, I don't think I realized like how much that clip would have been used, and maybe I would have like made it a little bit nicer or something funnier or something.
Did your comedic arts major come into play at all in the game?
Not really. Just because like, I mean like I guess it helped me because like I'm kind of just the type to like crack a joke, you know, like at or something, like just so like people at least are like, I don't know, like seeing me as like kind of like a goofy guy. So I guess help in that way. It didn't help because I'm like busy all the time, and I think one of the things they also maybe don't show about Survivor Boston specifically is that students in Emerson are like so overcommitted and so busy like all the time. So I think it was one of those things where like I'm glad that I was able to come in with like an improv background, blah blah blah, like all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like there wasn't really anybody else from comedic arts in the cast. So like the only other person I knew like from the comedy scene was Zach. So like I was just kind of like I just was like, these are just a lot of people that I don't really know that well. So, but I mean the comedy community at Emerson is like relatively small too. So it was like kind of bound to happen.
Well, just in general, from your initial like video, I think the comedy arts are kind of hard to get into a college for, based on what your initial video said.
Yeah, I mean yes, but like I think the Emerson program's pretty well. Actually, honestly, I don't know, but I think it's definitely not like it's. I don't know if it's the hardest thing to get into, but it's also one of the things where like not that many people do it unless they're like serious about it. So that kind of is part of it too.
Tony, you went to Emerson as well. What did you go for?
I was writing for film and television, so I was a part of their film major, the film program.
Tony and I were in a class together where we wrote musicals, and it was honestly really cool.
My favorite class I've ever taken. We both wrote our own movie musicals.
Your own movie musicals?
Yeah, it was like a movie script, but then we performed the musical itself like in person in a theater.
So if you were to write a movie musical about Survivor Boston and your experience in it, what would your title song be?
We can totally, like, if you want to go improv on this, okay, hold on. I'm removing Nathan. I'm removing myself. So 3, 2, 1, Tony, Finn, movie musical, Survivor Boston.
I will say one of my hyphens is not singer. I'm not really...
Well, anyone can say that.
Wait, let me think. I think if I had to name it, it would be like Palamedes, like that initial misspelling of it. And then it would, I mean, I don't know. Like the thing I'll say about our musical is like we did the film part, and then we had kids from Berkeley do the music part of it. So
that's not our forte. I will say that perhaps given the story I told about my boot and Roz, my musical still applies to my Survivor Boston experience.
Yeah, girl.
So, yeah.
I kicked us. I thought you were going to bring out a song or something. Like
we shouldn't.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Like you guys don't want to hear me sing. You guys, like I promise you don't.
Well, I guess this is the warning for maybe Nathan, our next guest that we have on, whoever it may be. You might be thrown into a duet with our special. I don't know.
I think this should be a prerequisite for this podcast. Is you need to do a song before the end of it.
Write a song.
Phoebe, hopefully you can help out with this. So she was offering duet. That's what she was going for. So maybe next time.
You want to do Jules and Drugs? Anything from Art Pop really quick?
Ooh.
No.
Again, like you guys, I'm like not a singer. Like if I had known this prerequisite, maybe I would have warmed up my voice, maybe gotten like a stand-in or something.
Maybe we'll do like a nice like recap episode, and everybody can come on with like a little special talent for Survivor Boss.
A reunion or something.
Mm-hmm. I like where this is going, but also where this is going is to the end of the podcast. So, Tony, Nathan, Finn, of course, thanks for hanging out tonight. Tony, special guest here. Season 3, Beacon Hill. Make sure everyone tunes in for that and catches up. Tony, final last thoughts about the episode, about Finn's journey, anything like that?
Just loved Finn's character this season. I thought he was really great. He was a great strategist, and this season's great. So I hope everyone enjoys the rest of it as well.
Nathan, I know you want to get to predictions. Last week you said Finn is out for blood, and that quite didn't happen for that. So Nathan, any big prediction?
I said Finn would be out for blood, and it would catch up to him.
Yeah.
That was pretty quick.
You were right.
Thank you. I was, and I'd like to make another correct prediction.
Oh, okay.
Actually, no. You go first, Dustyn, because I need to think about this.
I am afraid that Swetha is going to get targeted now for some strange reason based on her confessionals. I feel like we had a lot of Swetha confessionals this episode, and her bonding with Zach. I think some people are going to get word of that, and maybe Zach or Swetha may be the target for building such a strong bond together. Just, I don't know. I got like a little hints here and there.
I'm going to go different. I'm going to say that Carly is in trouble because now that she's lost Finn, she still has the foursome with Anissa, Marlon, and Big H. But it seems like the other side is starting to be a little solidified with Jackie and Hallie really being closer, and Zach and Swetha being closer. And so between those two fours, who's in the middle? Wait, actually, who's in the middle? Who's the last person?
No, I think Carly, Marlon...
Anna is more on that other side, which means that Carly would be the one in trouble here. So I'm saying Carly. I'm sorry. I'm loving watching you, but your ticket might be up.
No, I think Carly's come back from an early gameplay mishap, so I think she's held her own really well. So I'm excited to see her. They did come up
this episode.
That's true.
She didn't get a stray vote though, so
yeah, but no one voted.
Carly is tuning in, and she says we always say she's in trouble.
Honestly,
Carly, every week you are in trouble, by the way, but you have done a great job at avoiding that trouble.
Carly is consistently one of the funniest characters on the show.
Really.
Yeah, prove me wrong, Carly, or prove me right. Either way, I'll be happy.
Like I said last time too, I'm so disappointed Anissa didn't throw a vote on Carly, because it seems like I'm gonna throw a vote. Carly, here's the vote for Carly. Vote.
Yeah, I don't know why she didn't throw a vote last tribal if it was unanimous again.
Agreed. Maybe she just wanted me out that bad.
She was probably too scared. She's like, if this comes down to another tiebreaker, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
If we go to this next episode and someone else suggests Hallie as the main target, I'm just gonna bang my head against the table, because obviously I feel like that's a terrible choice.
Just float on by now, so
just let her get to final 6 or 5 and.
Mm-hmm.
She's so funny.
But seeing that new relationship with her and Jackie, maybe Jackie's gonna use that. Be like, hey, Hallie, we're gonna steamroll this. Like, we're gonna be 2. And vote these people out. So
it seems like a thing. It's a it's a marriage of convenience if you're, you follow the anti-cons archetypes at all.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, besides predictions and everything, Finn, I want to turn it to you before we say goodbye for the evening. Finn, final thoughts about the season? Final
I guess all my thoughts are just thinking about I'm just having a really fun time watching this back, because this is from 2 years ago, so I think I'm like I'm sort of the same, but like I'm like a very kind of a different person from like who I was back then. So it's definitely nice to sort of like it feels like checking in with like an old friend who I'm like, oh, look at how he's doing. Like he has no idea what's to come. You know what I mean? But other than that, I guess I'm just excited to see like the rest of the season and like what happens afterwards.
Well, we really appreciate you joining us tonight, and we really appreciate all the viewers tonight. Thanks, Phoebe, Juju for tuning in, Jacob and Charlie for setting us straight, of course, from production. Thank you. Anissa was here at 1.2. I lost her in the comments, but with Carly. Thank you, Carly. Thank you, everyone. And Finn, we're going to see you more on Jury. Hopefully, you'll have a nice little peek out behind the curtain, like last episode, and everyone was like, "Ah, there she is." So I'm excited to see that. Once again, Tony, Nathan, Finn, thank you, viewers out there. Thank you. Remember, Boston is taking a week off for the new year, so no episode Thursday, but the following Thursday they will be back live on YouTube. And make sure to follow us for all the coverage here at facebook.com/live-reality-games. We're out for the night, and you can tune into our podcast at any time. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
Night.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.